Okay, so I'll be explaining how to create a class that navigates through a MySQL table. So what we're going to do here is first to create a project. So okay, so if you can see here, I created a project called MySQL demo new. So it's a new demo, and then I have here my main program. I'll be showing you that later. And then I created a class. So I named the class table. So this is where I'm going to manipulate the table. And before I do that, I also have included in my library my MySQL connector. So we have done this last time. So just right click and then add the folder or the jar. Now let's take a look at my table. So this is now my class. First is I'm going to import all the necessary packages and classes. So I have here import SQL connection, driver manager, result set, SQL exception, statement, etc. And then this is now my class, so public class table. And in my table, I have the following attributes: the connection, the current statement, the result set, employee ID, which is an integer, employee name, which is a string, department number, which is an integer, and salary, which is double. So actually, these are the fields of my table. Then next, I have here now my constructor. So in my constructor, I actually have to connect to my database and maybe execute a query at my default record set. Okay, so we have here the URL in which I have here, of course, my server, my database server, localhost, my port number, and then I have here now the name of my database, Debbie Demo. So of course you have to change this if you have a different database. So let's check my MySQL. So use Debbie Demo. So that's the name of my database. That is why that is the name that I'm going to place here. So just use this one. Then my username is root. Password is no password. Then of course every time we execute, let's always use the try catch SQL exception. So in this case, here I'm going to create my connection using driver manager get connection. So I have here again the URL, username, and password. So I have here now my connection, and then here this is something you saw, so that we don't have a forward only record set. We have here con create statement. So result set that type scroll sensitive, comma, and then result set concur updatable. So this means that the result set that I'm going to produce is not a forward only result set. What do I mean by not forward only? That means I can move to the next record and then I can go back to the previous records. That's why it's not a forward only record set. So here I created my because that's one of my attributes here, the result set, the general result set. So I selected asterisk from I executed that query, and then rs.next. So that means I am on the first record of my query. So again, let's select asterisk from So the result set will be something like this. You notice it might be different with your example because I have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. So let's go back to my code. So again, execute next. So if there's something wrong with this, let's say for example I don't have the correct username, password, or maybe the name of the database, then it will jump here. That's why we have the try catch. So if there is a runtime error incurred in these statements, then it will jump here and it will display the message, the error message. So that is now what I place in my constructor. Then next, let's say I want to display the records. So what will I do? So again, I created a statement. So this one will be independent of this record set. So it will not affect the record set. So we're going to create a new record set here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same connection. Then I'm going to create statement st. So but this time around, I did not place scroll type because that means I want it to be forward only. Because what will be doing here is just to display the record. So select ID, ename, dep ID, salary from M. I specified the fields because in your example, I have only 4 columns. So here, go to the first record. So we loop until the time that there are no more entries in my result set. So again, the result set, as I've said, is similar to this, but it is inside the memory of the computer. So it's like a table. So each time we issue rs.next, the pointer, which points to one record, goes to the next record, next record, next record. So that is the purpose of rs.next. So we do this. That means we display the first column. That's the ID. Column 2, that's ename. Column 3, that is dep ID. You notice ename is string, ID is integer, dep ID is integer, and salary, that's the 4th column, is float. And I use this format. So 4D -20s, that means left align, and then 2D for dep ID, and then 10.2F for salary. So again, we display the record. Then display the error message if we have an error. So that is what the display record will do. And this one, result set get current record. So get the current result set. So we just return rs. So what is rs? Rs is actually a result set. So that's the data type we're going to use. So, result set, rs, that's the result set. Okay, next, you get MID. So we just return the current record set that get in, then ID. So instead of the column number, we can also specify the field name. So if you notice, it is actually a lot better. So you don't have to memorize the column number. All you have to do is know the field name. So you notice that the field name for my ID is ID. So I have to specify this name. So if you want to get the ID, I can use get MID. So this return the ID. So just to be sure that, let's say for example, there's an error, I just return -1. So if -1 is displayed, that means I was not able to get the ID. Get emp name. So emp name is a string, that's why return string. ID is an integer, that's why public int. Get emp name, so similar to this one, but get string and then ename. So if there's an error, just use hyphen. And then you can do same thing for the rest of the columns. Let's say we have get dep ID, get mgr, get salary, and get com. So I did not anymore show that in the source code or in the video. Okay, let's proceed to the next one. So this one will move to the next record. So rs.next. So to move to the next record in the record set, so we just issue rs.next command. And then to move to the first record, so similar with next, we use rs.first. So we also have previews, we have last. So all you have to do is to check. So how do we know what are the commands we can use? So just type rs dot. So these are some of the commands. Before first, close, delete row, find column, first, get array, get ASCII key, so get boolean, get bytes, so etc, etc, get float, get int. So these are the things we've been doing. So insert row is after, is close, is wrap, last, move to current row, move to insert row, next, previews, refresh row, okay. So these are the commands that we can use. So we'd like you to view this. So I will not be finishing the other commands. So it's up to you to do this. So again, let's review what we have done here. We have one method to display the records. So all we have to do is execute the record set, execute the query, and then move to each record set from the first to the last, return the whole record set, return the ID from the current record set, the name from the current record set, then move to the next record set, move to the first record set. So these are the methods that we have done here. So here, to demonstrate that, so since we have the emp table class, we create a new object. So emp table e equals new emp table. So the name of our object is e. So that is the record, or our object that will manipulate the table from our database. So if we want to display the records, we just type e and then display records. So again, going back, we have a method that displays the record. So we are calling this or executing this method. So e.display records. And then to demonstrate our other functions, we have just to have a separator, print get emp ID, get emp name. So you notice that once we create an instance of the object, this is our constructor, we move to the first record. So rs.next, or this could also be rs.first. So that means what we expect is this will display the first record. Once we issue e.next, so this should be displaying the second record. e.next, this should be displaying the third record. e.first, this should be displaying the first record. So it goes back to the first record. So this will be our expected output of the program. So I have already run the program. So the first method is display the records, and in displaying the record, let's go back. What did we do here? We displayed the ID name, dep ID, and salary. So that will be our output here. So we have here the ID, the name, dep ID, and the salary. So if you check the database, so this is the table, and this is our Java output. So after that, we have our separator. And then what did we do in our main program? We displayed the current ID and name. So that means that's the first record. So Daisy 1 and then Daisy, because we displayed the ID and the name. So ID and name Daisy. Then what's next? We place here e.next. So that will place us on the second record. That's why 2 Robert. So 2 Robert. And then another e.next. So that's second. That should be the third record. The third record is 3 Vanessa. So that will be, we're expecting 3 Vanessa. So that's 3 Vanessa. And then e.first. So that means we're going to the first record. So what's our first record? Daisy. So we have here 1 Daisy. So that demonstrates this sort, and it's not a complete method yet. The method is not yet complete, so you have to do it on your own and maybe even add more methods to this to manipulate the this table. So thank you very much for viewing this video.